Hello there, people of the internet. How's everybody doing today? I'm doing all right, thanks for asking. I'm out here with a Vetterli rifle. I've always wanted a Vetterli rifle because they are essentially a predecessor to the Carcano rifles, however it is you feel like pronouncing that. Always wanted one, never really got around to getting one until I just so happened to find one. Sorry for the interruption, but I want to shout out my Utreon and Patreon pages. If you want to support my content, help me make content more often and better content. Links to them are below. Any amount helps because the stuff that I am using out here is not free, so anything you can do to support definitely helps. Now this one, lo and behold, did come from Royal Tiger Imports. Royal Tiger Imports is kind of sketchy in terms of the quality of what it is that you're getting for the price that you're getting at. Like, it really is luck of the draw. You might get something that still has a pretty good barrel and bore, or you're gonna get something that's completely shot out that you're gonna have to counter bore if there's even remotely still rifling inside of the rifle. I decided to go ahead and take a chance with Royal Tiger Imports on this rifle right here. Now, whenever it came in, of course, as is everything from Royal Tiger Imports, this one right here came from Ethiopia. And just like everything else, it was absolutely disgusting, covered in all sorts of grease and funk, and I never actually got around to cleaning all of that off. I literally just took a wet rag and I cleaned off all the surface crap, and I cleaned out the barrel, and I cleaned out all the internals and whatnot to go ahead and get this thing shootable, see if it's something that's even worth salvaging or if it's something that I'm just gonna hang on my wall. Well, I have shot it, and from what I can tell, it doesn't seem that the projectiles are keyholing, so let's go ahead and check it out. Let's talk about the rifle a little bit first. So originally these were black powder rifles, like the Vetterli system in its original design was a black powder system. And the Vetterli system actually has locking lugs on the rear of the bolt as opposed to the front of the bolt. Just the way that the Vetterli system is designed, it's got like a locking wedge on it. It's just not the strongest system. It's not like Mauser strong or anything like that. But the reason why they went with locking lugs on the back of the bolt like this as opposed to on the front, back during the days of black powder burns at a far lower pressure than smokeless powder does. So you can get away with having locking lugs on the back of the bolt as opposed to locking lugs on the front of the bolt like you would want for smokeless powder. And the reason why they didn't stick them on the front of the bolt as well as not necessarily needing it, black powder is very dirty, and whenever it burns, it leaves a lot of residue. Like, anyone who's ever gotten crap in the locking lugs of a Bolt's action rifle knows that once there's any amount of debris or dirt inside of those locking lugs, you can't really function. Like, that rifle's not going to really function all that well. And whenever they are right behind the chamber, you know, on the front of the bolts, you really start dealing with some significant black powder fouling there. So they went ahead and just stuck them on the back of the receiver, back of the bolt right there, and that's adequate enough for black powder. Now, you know, come the turn of the century, we have smokeless powder in our midst, and the Italians, essentially during the First World War, the Italians were looking around at this massive stockpile of these black powder rifles, and they were like, you think we can get away with converting those to our, you know, new cutting-edge technology 6.5 smokeless powder cartridges? And they were like, you know what, why the hell not? So they went ahead and they converted their much larger diameter bullets to a 6.5 caliber. They sleeved the barrel in these things. I'll see if I can capture the sleeving on video for you guys. Originally, these were single-shot rifles. They did add a magazine system in for the black powder cartridges, but they replaced that system with the same exact Carcano system that your Carcanos have. It's just a Monlicker system, 6 rounds. You know, it takes standard Carcano clips that you just shove right into the receiver. I'm going to go ahead and single load this rifle because the feeding mechanism in this particular rifle is having some issues. I think that there's some crap built up in there and it's just not really functioning the way that it should. So the Vetterli system originally was a single loading system, and the extractor, although it is slightly modified, it is still on this, well, it's still the same design that the Vetterli originally was dealing with. So single loading is not going to damage the extractor on a Vetterli rifle. It's not like the Carcano system where it's a control feed where whenever you are stripping a round off of the clip by closing the bolts, the round raises up under the extractor as opposed to the extractor popping over the round. That's what control feed means. And the Vetterli, just the way that the system is, it lends itself to be able to pop over a rim very effectively. Now, you do not want to use commercial ammo in these rifles. The ammunition that I will be firing today has been downloaded to safe pressures for the Vetterli rifle. That being said, these are still not rifles that you would want to go out and regularly shoot. They were basically intended as like last-ditch emergency rifles, and they're not really ones that that they were intending to be like frontline, here you go out and fight this war and be prepared to stick 1,000 rounds through this rifle, you know, every single week. The systems on these rifles just aren't strong enough, and they will eventually beat themselves to death. And whenever you have downloaded ammunition, it like really helps prevent that. But even then, these are black powder guns firing smokeless powder ammunition, and you gotta know what you're doing whenever you're loading for these things. Otherwise, you're straight up gonna have a bad time. So that being said, go ahead and single load this bad boy right here. I have no idea if we're actually going to hit the target out there. Whenever I had originally shot this rifle, it was at like 7 yards or so just to see where it's hitting. Does seem to hit a little high, but it doesn't look like the projectiles are keyholing, at least not at that distance. Looking at the rifle and the actual bore, the rifling inside the chamber all the way up to the end of the muzzle, like the entirety of the barrel, actually looks pretty decent. I'm not noticing a lot of wear or pitting or anything like that. And that tells me that whenever they stuck this rifle into storage, whoever had this rifle or was carrying this rifle never actually fired it before he ended up losing it. So there was no corrosive ammo that was fired through this thing and then the rifle not cleaned. So I actually do have high hopes for this rifle hitting on target, but let's go ahead and send around downrange and see if we actually hit our target here. I also want to say the trigger on this thing, my God, I've never felt a better trigger on an old rifle. The trigger on this thing is phenomenally good. There's like zero creep, zero take up at all. And it's just instant wall, and it's probably about a 3-pound trigger. I feel like this rifle would be incredibly accurate. Like, it's just fucking phenomenal. Let's see if I can manage to hit that steel all the way out there. Well, I hit the steel. Okay, so like I said before, you want to pay attention to these, and whenever you're loading, like downloading 6.5 Carcano, which is already incredibly anemic, you want to make sure that you're not getting any squib loads. You want to confirm that your target is being hit with every single projectile that you fire out of that gun before you're loading another projectile, because the last thing you want is an overpressure situation with this thing. Now, with the locking system not being the strongest, you do get gas that pops out of the front of the bolt right here, and it does spray back on your face a little bit, but with downloaded ammunition, it's really not that bad at all. So now we load another round here, very delicately pop that extractor over our rim there. You don't want to be very aggressive with it. And let's send another round downrange. Well, we're smacking our target. Now, the downloaded 6.5 Carcano, like 6.5 Carcano normally is not a particularly hard-hitting round, and whenever it's downloaded out of a very long, heavy rifle like this, there's essentially zero recoil behind this thing. All right, just for funsies, I'm gonna send another one downrange, because why not? This is actually a pretty good time. All right, sending lead. Kerkunk. Yeah, this thing right here seems to shoot about a foot high at the 40 yards that we're shooting at. But although the elevation is not 100% the best, at least our windage looks pretty good. Now, occasionally we do get some light primer strikes with this thing. I think that there's like some crap or some funk that's built up in the actual firing pin chamber, because the firing pin sometimes goes properly home and other times not so much. If it was a weak spring, we'd have consistent light primer strikes, but we just have occasional light primer strikes with this thing. So I'm thinking there's some funk in there. I still haven't cleaned out like the rifle the way that I really want to, but we are hitting our target. So lo and behold, this right here might be something that I deem worth saving. All right, just because this is actually a pretty fun time, let's go ahead and send one more round downrange here because I'm enjoying myself. Take aim. I'm aiming at the bottom of the target, and we are hitting the target, so yeah, we're smacking the target, no problem. Now, just because of the exceptionally anemic nature of this downloaded 6.5 Carcano, I would not recommend using this for anything more than small game hunting. I mean, it's still traveling. Hell, with the loading I use probably about 1,200 or so feet per second. I'd like to have a chronograph or something like that I could use to actually measure the speed of this, but I simply don't have that. But I'm willing to bet, rough estimations from the loading that I use, about 1,200 feet per second. It would still kill something, but it's not something that I would recommend, you know, using. Speaking of using, let's send another round downrange. Yeah, man, this thing seems to be hitting like right where I'm aiming. This is actually a pretty awesome little rifle. And I'll be honest, with the lack of, well, with the extremely light loads that I'm using here, there's a severe lack of back pressure in my face, like back gas coming at me. I played around with like low pressure and more higher pressure ammunition, still safe in the Vetterli, to really figure out what this one likes and how to get, you know, a good amount of velocity without getting a bunch of back blast in my face. And I think I found a good medium, because this right here is incredibly tolerable. It still seems incredibly accurate. And my God, the trigger on this thing, I cannot get over the trigger on this. It's so light shooting. All right, well, that's all the 6.5 Vetterli ammunition that I have out here. I'm gonna call it 6.5 Vetterli because it's a special load. It's not necessarily 6.5 Carcano. So 6.5 Vetterli, that's what I'm gonna start calling it. Now this particular one is dated 1877, so this is an incredibly old rifle. And I imagine it's gonna clean up pretty nice, because with how much it's cleaned up so far, it's cleaned up very, very nice so far. Like I said before, not something that you want to take out and shoot regularly. This is probably something I'm going to have hanging on my wall, but I like the fact that I was able to actually get it firing. And it's accurate! I was wholeheartedly expecting this to be not an accurate firearm, considering where it came from, who I bought it from. Like, I'm actually very, very pleased with this. Look at that! I hit my steel! Was it every shot that I think I might have missed like one shot where I was like aiming low. I aimed a little too low. I have to clean out the feeding system in this so I can get it actually feeding from a Carcano clip. But besides that, you know, and cleaning off all the funk and whatnot, besides that, man, this is a fantastic little rifle. I'm very happy with this particular Vetterli example that I had gotten here. Thanks for watching, folks. I appreciate your time. Let me know what you guys' thoughts are down below. Do you have any good luck with these Vetterli rifles? If you do, I'm actually kind of interested here. What loads do you use for your Vetterli rifle? I wanna go down and see all the different loads, because I was reading on like gun forums and whatnot, different loads that people use for their Vetterli, and I was not really able to come across anything significant. Like, there's no hard load data for loading 6.5 Carcano for a Vetterli. So what are your loads if you decide to load for these things? Let me know down in the comments below. This was 2.64 diameter ammunition, by the way. I don't have any 2.68 diameter bullets, so 2.64 diameter ammunition, and we still hit our steel at 40 yards, no problem. I hear somebody shooting off in the distance. Yep. They must have heard my gunfire and were like, you know what, that sounds like a fantastic idea. Let's go do that. So, man, I cannot ask for better than that. I was wholeheartedly expecting to make like none of those shots. Okie dokie, let me gather my stuff here. So, thanks for watching, folks. Like, subscribe, share, whatever else it is that I say for the outro. Description down below, link to all sorts of stuff. Go check that out. I actually have a couple other rifles that I want to make videos on today, so I'm gonna go do that, and I'm probably gonna load up some more 6.5 Carcano ammo specifically for this Vetterli. I'm probably gonna get some kind of like shell holder on the back, and I'm gonna mark my 6.5 Vetterli ammunition with a little V with like a Sharpie or something, so I know for a fact that that ammunition is for this rifle. And remember, pay attention if you're shooting this thing, pay attention and make sure that you get no squib loads. Like, if you're underloading ammunition, you want to make sure that the ammunition does not end up, like the bullet doesn't end up, you know, halfway down the barrel and you end up sending another round. That's a fantastic way to destroy your gun, and you don't want that, especially with these old rifles right here. Pay attention to what you're doing with these, and if you know what you're doing, tell me what you're doing down below, because I want different information on rifles, or on loadings for these rifles here. So I got like 4 other videos that I got to make today, actually, so I'm gonna go do that. You guys go off, have yourself a fantastic day. I am very happy about this thing, very excited. Whenever the feeding system in this thing actually starts functioning, it has a little hole down here in the bottom. It literally takes just a standard Carcano clip that you shove into this rifle, and there you go. 6-round in-block clip. Normally that would be a very useful, very good design. It would be a good idea if they could just convert these rifles to be able to fire standard 6.5 Carcano ammunition. But like I said, these systems just, they're not designed to be able to handle that type of pressure, which the 6.5 puts out. So you have to download ammunition for these. These were not really intended for anything beyond just emergency use. Like if it was, hey, take this rifle and defend us or we all die, then that's basically what these rifles were. Okay, all right, okay, all right, okay, all right. You guys go off, have yourself a fantastic day. Grab my stuff here. Been a little while since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. Poor man's Garen. It's a shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't more mainstream.